So, a lot of people have varying opinions about the Wisps in the Sonic franchise. Some like them, some love them, some completely hate the Wisps and think that they're unnecessary and should never be in the Sonic games in the first place. Now, the Wisps first made their appearance in Sonic Colors, the game that came out in 2010. And ever since then, I always thought that the whole point of the Wisp existence is to cut out Sonic's friend. For instance, like the hover, the hover Wisp. Tails can hover, the eagle, Tails can fly, Drill, Knuckles, and Sonic Adventure 2. The Frenzy's kind of like the Team Blast. Lightspeed Dash is a laser, and so on and so forth. Actually, the Lightspeed Dash is more like the hover. But I started noticing that in Sonic Colors, with the hover basically took away his Lightspeed ability. The hover Wisp was a more refined Lightspeed dash, or whatever you want to call it, because there was no glitches and it actually worked. And the spike was basically just an OP version of the spin dash. So I noticed this. Even Johnny first took notice of this in his very first Sonic Colors review back in 2010. Now, I like the Wisp. The Wisp were implemented very well in Sonic Colors. You have to understand, Sonic Colors was the game that brought Sonic back from the ground. Because, after this we had Sonic 06, the storybook, Sonic and the Secret Rings, and Sonic was down in the dumps. Sonic Unleashed came out, which was very good. I love the graphics. The intro was awesome, beautiful. The daytime stages were great, but the nighttime stages were something else, and it's what caused a lot of critics to give the game a D rating, So basically, Sega was like, okay, we need to take out the good stuff from Sonic Unleashed and stick with that, and just add to it. So they took out the daytime stages from Sonic Unleashed, put them in Sonic Colors with more of a focus on 2D, and brought Wisps. Now, in Sonic Colors, the Wisps were a gimmick. It was a complete gimmick that became a staple feature in the games. Now the Wisps are no longer gimmicks. Wisps are a feature in the games. I'm going to explain the whole difference between gimmicks and features in the future discussion video I'm going to do, because I basically had a debate, like I was arguing with other Sonic tubers and Sonic fans about what makes a gimmick in the Sonic game. And we all have very diverse opinions, and a lot of us don't understand what gimmicks are. I will talk about that in another video. But yeah, so basically the Wisps were added as a gimmick in Sonic Colors, and it was mainly used for platform variety, to give variety to the platform. Otherwise you just have a Sonic game that plays like the Unleashed daytime stages, period. So the Wisps were to give variety for platforming, and also replay value as you unlocked more Wisps as you progress through the game. And the Wisps were mostly in 2D, besides the Laser Wisp and the Frenzy Wisp. If there's any other Wisps that were used in a 3D environment, please let me know, because I can't think of any. But yeah, the Wisps were mainly used for the 2D, because Sega wanted to play it safe for Sonic Colors. They wanted the game to be mostly 2D with some 3D sections, whereas Generations Unleashed were 3D with 2D sections. So, to give more variety for the 2D gameplay, they gave Wisps, and to give more replay value. That's what the Wisps were for, and for the most part, they were successful. The Wisps were so successful and people loved Sonic Colors so much, Sega decided, let's bring them back. Now, the Wisps were brought back in Sonic Generations for justifiable reasons, because Generations was celebrating Sonic's 20-year anniversary, so every level was from a different game. It would be a crime to have a level, Planet Wisp or Tropical Resort from Sonic Colors and not have the Wisps in it. So the Wisps were brought back in Generations for the specific levels. In the 3DS version, Tropical Resort, and the console version, Planet Wisp. But this time they were different. The Wisps were forced on you. You needed them to progress, and they became a crutch, which for some hindered the enjoyment of the Wisps. In the console version, you had the Spike Wisp, which was the worst Wisp, I think, in the game. You had to use Spike every 2 seconds to hit those cogs and to make, areas, open up doors and make areas accessible for you. You barely got to hear the music because you were always using the Wisp. Same thing for the modern version. The Rocket Wisp was a little bit more decent, but you needed the Rocket. And unlike the original version, Sonic Colors on the Wii, instead of using the Rocket, okay, what is up with my pronunciation? Instead of using the Rocket to, propel you in the sky and then you skydive, the Rocket was used to break these barriers that you needed them to break through as you were ascending through the level. So they completely changed the whole purpose of the Rocket. Instead of it, being a skydiving Wisp, it was used to break barriers, and that got a little annoying after a while. The Wisps were actually used the same in the 3DS version. Laser was used the same way, and I love Laser. Laser has always been my favorite Wisp. And the Burst, which was from Colors DS, was used just like the Burst in the original. It was the console version where they were used differently, and it kind of suffered. I mean, overall, Sonic Generations was a great game, but for those specific levels, people were like, eh. So, Sega brought back the Wisps again, full-fledged this time for Sonic Lost World, and this time they were completely rehashed, They rehashed them with a more focus on the 3D environments of Lost World. So this time they were way more gimmicky and way more unnecessary. For instance, the Rocket Wisp, a lot of the Wisps that were 2D in Sonic Colors were 3D in Sonic Lost World, because a lot of people complained back then that the Wisps were only used in 2D environments. I want to use the Wisp in 3D environments. I want to use the Drill Wisp underwater for a 3D section. And I blame that on all of us, because I remember Aquarium Park, we were all like, this is cool, Sega, like Sonic can actually go fast underwater with a Drill Wisp. However, I want the water sections to be 3D. There's no point for it to only be 2D. So what did they do? Sega actually brought it back and made it 3D. For Tropical Coast, like one of the levels, if you use the Drill Wisp, you'll be underwater. But that was just awful. You could barely control the damn thing. You were only underwater for a brief amount of time, and it was just weird. It didn't make sense. It was hard to control. And even the Rocket Wisp was used in 3D, but you used it more to just propel you from one planet to the next. And that was okay, but it was kind of lame. So a lot of the Wisps were used for 3D environments. Also, the Hover was used more in 3D. And so a lot of them just fell completely flat. Laser was good too, like Laser was used for 3D environments too. But like I said, I preferred it in Colors. So yeah, so a lot of them just fell flat. And the Wisps in general became pointless in Lost World. And this is when people started hating on the Wisps, because they're like, what is the purpose of the Wisps? They have no purpose for the story. The Wisps are not even in the story mode. So it's like, so the Wisps are just here just for gimmicks. And at the time of their release, they were very motion control heavy. And it was so bad that Sega had to create a patch to fix it. Now the Wisps are more tolerable in Lost World, but still they're necessary, especially that Bomb Wisp. So after that, people are like, I don't want to see Wisps again for the Sonic games unless they have a purpose. Now, for the little mobile game Sonic Runners, the Wisps were brought back, but they used them as items to enhance the runner gameplay experience, which was decent. It was decent for a game like Sonic Runners where you were using all different kinds of power-ups. There was even Elise for a power-up, so, I mean, come on. Now, enter Sonic Forces, which is a major game now, and the Wisps are back. But this time, the Wisps have completely evolved. It has now changed, and it will be used in a more weaponized manner, mostly for your custom hero. Now, we still have the Wisp boosting Yacker power-up for Modern Sonic, but I'm starting to think, don't quote me on this, but I'm starting to think that the Wisps will not be used for Classic Sonic and Modern Sonic. It will mostly be used for the custom hero, in the form of Wispin. Now, I pronounced this the wrong way in my previous episode. I call it Wispon, but it's a Wispin, because Wispin is a wordplay on Wisp and Weapon. So I did some research on this. It's actually on Wikia right now, on the Sonic News Wikia. It says the Wispin is an object that is said to appear in Sonic Forces. It is a weapon used by the custom hero for harnessing the Wisp color powers. And yeah, it's basically like a red, I don't know how to explain it, but it says the Wispin is a grenade launcher-like weapon. It consists of a white barrel. So basically it's a white barrel with a red capsule-like cap covering the front and a black handle on the rear. The front cap is shaped similar to a fireball. So it also has two thick cables connecting the front cap and middle section and three black muzzles. So basically the Wispin can harness the hyper go-on energy from the Wisps and use it to channel their respective color powers without causing the user to transform. So that's pretty cool. So instead of transforming with the Wisp, you're using them through your gun. So all I can say now is Shadow will be jealous. Shadow will be very jealous, because this is what Sega tried to do with the whole Shadow the Hedgehog gameplay, and I think this is going to be better. So it's a handheld device for weaponizing the Wisp powers. So the Wispin is used by the custom hero and the custom heroes only, where it can capture Wisp from Wisp capsules and use their color powers without causing the custom hero to transform. For example, the custom hero uses the Wispin with a red Wisp, the burst, so they don't have to transform into the red burst. Rather, it lets them create bursts to jump through the air for a short time, like the red burst, and use the Wispin gun as a flamethrower to destroy enemies. So basically, the red burst will customize. The red burst will give your custom hero the ability to use their Wispin as a flamethrower and also a rocket booster. So that's pretty cool. What do you guys think? I think Sega is evolving with the Wisp. They're bringing it back, but this time they're changing it. So when I was talking to Premi about this, he said that he thinks this is a step in the right direction. I do too, you know, because, you know, as much as I like the Wisp for Sonic Colors, I don't think they need to return unless Sega's going to evolve with them. And if they're going to be used as to be weaponized and to upgrade your weapons and gadgets, then that is cool. I love that. We'll have to see when Sonic Forces comes out for E3, but I'm even more excited now to see the whole Wisp feature for the custom heroes, because now the custom heroes are completely different from the two Sonics, because now they have their grapple hooks and the Wispin. And I think even when you customize yourself to be a Hedgehog, you'll also have a Wispin. So only time will tell. We'll have to see. But what do you guys think about this and Sega's evolution of the Wisps? Do you like this? Are you even more interested in the whole Wisp gameplay now in Sonic Forces? Or do you not care and you wish that the Wisps were not even in this game at all, nor the Wispins? Let me know down in the comments. Oh yeah, also another thing I wanted to add. I noticed with the whole grappling hook mechanic, it works in different areas. Like there's red and yellow, I don't know how to call them, but it's red and yellow circle beams. Kind of reminds me of the red and yellow springers, you know, like in the classic Sonic games. The yellow springer, it basically propels you slower. The red springer propels you higher. Or no, the yellow springer propels you lower, the red springer propels you higher. It's kind of like that with the grapple hooks, but it's different this time. The yellow grapple hooks basically twirl you around like a complete 360 around the grapple hook, if you know what I'm talking about. But the red grapple hooks only, like, I don't know how to explain it. The red grapple hooks project you to another side of the area, like they swing you from left to right. Whereas the yellow grapple hooks spin you around. So let me know if you guys noticed that, but I noticed that when I saw the gameplay. Also, I forgot to mention too, the Wisps definitely have to play a factor in the story in Sonic Forces this time. They have to, because there needs to be an explanation why the Wisps are being weaponized into these Wispins that I assume the entire Resistance is going to be using. Because custom heroes represents the Resistance, join the Resistance. So they're all using these weapons now, weaponizing with the Wisps. You know, this sounds so futuristic too, because it's like, that's pretty cool when you think about it. So the Wisps definitely have to play a factor in the story now on why they're being weaponized now by the Resistance. The Wisps are literally helping the Resistance by offering their Hyper Go-On energy into these weapons, you know? And it's, when you think about it, the only person that has been able to tap into the Wisp Hyper Go-On energy and transform is Sonic. You know, classic Sonic and modern Sonic. No other character can really transform Wisp powers. Or no other character can actually use Wisp powers. Even Dr. Eggman had to use a machine that extracted their energy into Nega Wisp energy. But that's all Color's story lore, as short as it was. So, you know, since Sonic is the main character, he's the only one that could transform. So these Wispins is basically a good excuse to have all these other characters using Wisp powers, but even better and cooler and more futuristic. It really sounds like a type of Terminator futuristic type of story. So if that's the case, the Wisps definitely have to play a factor in the story and just make the story better. You know, I heard that Graf and Pontac are writing the story again, so I don't know, but we'll see how it ends up being. And yeah, until next time, swag out.